This is something of a free for all. What is Maya? Then my question is to all of you. You didn't expect that, did you? What is Maya? Come on, you surely know. What is Maya?
Taking the unreal for the real.
Good answer. Good answer. Well, then we have to explore what we mean by real, what we mean by unreal. So there's a definition of real. Real is something that is permanent and never changes. Now that puts us in something of a dilemma, because wherever we look, we'll find everything is changing. And what causes this change, or how do we register this change? Because there's a factor called time. So if we were to take Maya as something like a kind of phenomena, then we have to register that time is a component of it. And then through time we'll register change. But space is also something, because space creates a sense of dividedness. By space, we can see that there are separate objects that sit within it. So we can't get away from the idea that time, space, and causation, desha, kali, nimitta, these are the three kinds of components that makes a kind of structure for our world. And we really, really, really think that it is permanent and real, despite the fact that it's changing. And this paradox is what we call Maya. Of course, Maya is derived from, it comes originally really from the Rig Veda. It's used there to denote a kind of magical power. And when we see what is the Oriental style of warfare, one method is also called Maya, deception. So in the Rig Veda, it is said that Indra, through the help of Maya, he assumes different forms. And so in the Upanishad, the word now acquires a philosophical meaning. And we read in the Upanishad, the Svetashvatara Upanishad, that we have to know Prakriti or nature to be Maya. It's mentioned there. And the great Lord to be the master of Maya. And Bhagavad Gita also refers to Maya, where Krishna says, truly, the divine Maya of mine, consisting of the three gunas, is hard to overcome, but those who take refuge in me shall also cross over this Maya. So now we get some kind of understanding of Maya, what we mean by Maya, and we come back to this no Prakriti. Now we have to understand what we mean by Prakriti is nature. When we think of nature, we think of trees and flowers and all that. That's not what we mean. We mean that there is an entirety, a totality of all things that live and move and breathe, including all the galaxies and stars and the worlds that we know of and the worlds that we don't know of, all the things, in other words, that modern science is investigating today to find out what is the mechanism that makes these things move. And so we can view Prakriti, in that sense, from that scientific point of view, as a kind of machine with mechanical parts. This is a Newtonian idea. From Newton's point of view, he lived in the industrial age, so everything has to be analogous to a machinery. This is the computer age, so everything now here is analogous to computers, information, the information age. When we talk about biological structures, we're talking of the genome to be something like an information gatherer and dispenser, dispensing the architecture of our physical structure throughout the entire body of the cell, creating protons and so on and so forth. But the cell itself, of course, is integral to the whole of this. This is our more modern discovery. How this works, we don't know. One key factor of Maya is we don't know. It's inscrutable. And if everything really is made, as it were, from Maya, and is part of this nature, Prakriti, Maya being the equivalent, then we can never figure it out because the mind itself is made from Maya. That is why it is completely inscrutable. So truly, the divine Maya of mind, says Krishna, consisting of the three gunas, it's hard to overcome. Why would it be hard to overcome? Because we know theoretically about the changing nature of the world and so on and so forth. Philosophers tell us, scripture tells us, teachers tell us, and we can also work it out. And when we work it out on the most critical level, namely scientific level, it's quite obvious that this Maya is there and is inscrutable, and leads us to the conclusion in the most fundamental physics that we have, namely quantum physics, that this world is based on uncertainty. In Isaac Newton's time, it wasn't the case. It was based on exact certainty because it was a mechanical universe he saw. And as long as we know all the variables, as long as we have all the information, we can make a prediction what will happen next. But our new physics, new from, let's say, 1920s onwards, has told us that this world runs on probabilities, uncertainties. This is the language of gambling. It's not the language of tables and chairs and so-called reality. It's a kind of chance thing going on, kind of haphazard, not deterministic at all. And that's in contrast to classical physics that says everything is fully determined. There's a cause, there's an effect. So how do we reconcile all of these? This is a big headache for modern science because they're trying to find a theory of everything that will reconcile the microcosmic world of quantum to the macrocosmic world of gravity. So the people are looking for quantum gravity. They won't be able to do it if the ancient philosophers are correct, because Maya is inscrutable. And what are they examining? They're examining this Maya. But it's very significant because Krishna tells us what is the composition of it. There are three strands. Shankara, Adi Shankara, Shankaracharya speaks of Maya as the power of the divine. It's beginningless. It's compounded of the three gunas. And though it's intangible, it can be inferred from the effect it produces. Now, many philosophers, particularly Buddhists, will say Shankaracharya got this idea of Maya from Buddhism or something like that, or it came later as a later philosophical development. Not at all. And we see there, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, going back some 5,000 years, let's say, but it's there entrenched in the Upanishads also, by its inference and by its direct reference. We can see that in the Shvetashvara Upanishad. Sadhanananda says that Maya is something positive, though intangible, which cannot be described as either being or non-being. And why is that? It's because things are mixed up. This world is a mix of impermanent and permanent. It's not entirely impermanent. There's a substratum, there's a structure. When we talk about the analogy of in the twilight of the day we go out because our vision is not so good, and in this analogy we see something coiled up in the corner and we immediately come to a conclusion. Our interpretation of what we see is that there is a snake and the snake is dangerous. Now, there are snakes, of course, in the world which are not necessarily dangerous. So we've made a number of assumptions. One, there's a snake. Secondly, it's coiled up. And then if we approach it, maybe it'll uncoil or rear its head up like a cobra and strike us. Some snakes are extremely deadly. In Africa, we have the black mamba and the green mamba, two varieties of snakes, very, very thin. And if they bite you, then you only have moments, really, I think, to get an antidote. Otherwise, that's you gone. Highly, highly toxic snakes. So let us see how the analogy works in our world. When we look on the world, we make an assumption, and that creates fear in us. What if? And that's becomes a great, great difficulty. It becomes a cause of our mental stress. And now we have to work out a strategy. Will we attack our obstacle that we deem as an obstacle called life head on and crash our head into a wall? Will we flee from it, run away from it? Many people feel, I can't handle things, I'll run away. And then there's another option, what to do, I don't know. You can stand in a position of yielding, being mesmerized. A wise person will take a lamp, the lamp of knowledge in the analogy, and shine the light on the obstacle or the item, the supposed snake, and it will reveal itself. The self-revelation is, it's not a snake at all, therefore the danger goes away, therefore the fear goes away. It's simply a rope that is coiled up. And the interesting thing is it resembles a snake. This world resembles the source of it. It resembles what is behind it. But what is hiding it? And these are the three strands. Now often gunas, as they're called, are often interpreted as qualities, like white paint or something like that, the whiteness of something, or the thickness of something, viscosity of something. But it's much more than that. Actually, it means it's similar to three threads or three strands of a rope being entwined. And it's the rope that binds us. Now there's a dichotomy, if you want, that you can present. And that is to say, but we heard in philosophy that we are free. Yes, we are free. How is it that we feel bound? We feel bound because of this wrong reading of what is in front. And we think that it is the snake, as in the analogy of the snake and the rope, and we know it, but it's not. Theoretically, we are told that behind everything, through everything, as everything even, is this entity called Brahman, which has no description, no qualities, nothing, which is beyond all of our perception, which is absolute, and therefore we can hardly think of such a thing. But yet, if we really knew it and understood it, we would have absolutely no fear. If we really knew it and understood it, we would not be scheming about our strategies. We would live in a state of complete contentment and bliss. So, while Maya cannot be described either as actually being or as non-being, and by stating that, we're also dealing with a possible objection. I have heard many say, oh, you know what? You Vedantins, Buddhists and so on, you all dismiss the world as an illusion. But we are much more sensible. We take it as a reality. So who's correct? Neither. Because we don't take it as an unreality. Because we think that it is neither being nor non-being. It is neither existent nor is it non-existent. It's inscrutable. Because its reality component will be the thing which is permanent and stable, which is undivided and unchanging, in the midst of the changing, hidden, as it were, by a veil of ignorance, a misunderstanding. Just as the sun is there, a cloud passes over or obscures it, Somebody who doesn't know any better thinks that the sun went in. And at this time of year, there's a common formula. You know about it. When you are inside, indoors, you look out through the window, and it is all very sunny. As soon as you go out of the door, the sun goes in. This is just a principle. But it doesn't go in. It doesn't go in, and it never came out. The fact is, the cloud went in the way. As soon as the cloud moves on, well, then the sun is still there. So if it were actually being, in the true sense of the word, that is unchanging, then its effect, which is the tangible universe, would be perceived at all times. But it's not. Because, you see, all the world that we have in front, that we interpret, that we try and deal with, is one of three possible worlds, and all of us experience these three worlds. We're living in a tripartite existence. Three worlds are there. Three worlds are there on a cosmological basis. Three worlds are there in our own experience. And the experience which puts us in a quandary, puts us in a fearful or defensive or attacking position, this is really only the waking state. The whole thing disappears in a deep sleep. In a deep sleep, this whole world that we deem was a reality disappears. Now we can wake up and dismiss it as, well, of course we required sleep and now we have to face reality again. But for the time being, this whole world is a non-being. The real can never become unreal. But we don't behold the universe in a state of superconsciousness. When we go into a state of samadhi, from Brahman's point of view, the Supreme point of view, there is no world. From the absolute stance, the world is gone. And from the relative world, we can't catch the absolute. The two cannot coexist in our awareness. So, if Maya were non-being and non-existent unreality, just like the oft-quoted paradox, impossible paradox, like the son of a barren woman makes no sense, the manifold universe could not be seen. So we could not see the world of names and forms as real. And therefore Maya is really something that is positive, not something that is negative. Even the word something denotes in its unsubstantiality or worthlessness, because apart from Brahman, the world its effect is both unsubstantial and worthless. So when we say positive, what does it mean? It denotes its capability of producing something that is a visible universe. So we can't use the argument which says you're living in an unreal situation, you're living in a kind of cuckoo land because you're saying everything is illusion, there's no chair, there's no table, there's no this, there's no that, there's no problem. No, there is, and it causes fear. This is as real a world as you can find, but it's relative. You'll only catch it because it's its relativity to the instruments that give you the information about it and the corresponding action toward it and all the sensations that the senses pick up. A table is solid, you cannot deny it. But in a deep sleep, it's not even there. You have to look at that point of view as well. This is Maya. And so Maya is said to be antagonistic to knowledge because both Maya and its effect, the material universe, they disappear exactly when you attain the knowledge of Brahman. In other words, when you wake up from the overall seeming dream, which we call our reality. So Brahman and Maya, they cannot coexist, no more than the absolute and the relative. the one in the many. And when one of these is perceived, the other one is non-existent. When you go into a deep sleep, this waking world disappears. When you're in the waking world, this deep sleep disappears. When you're in the relative world, the absolute is far away, and we have to interpret it in such a way and relate to it in such a way that we have to create a symbol or a form so that we can worship. But when we are immersed in the absolute, the relative world is not there, it's gone. So there are not even correlatives about this. And that's why the question often is asked about the absolute becomes the relative world. This whole statement about it is illogical and meaningless. The absolute can never become anything. The absolute is pure being. So now what produces this becoming thing? What crosses the line from the absolute to the relative? Are these two different worlds? No. It is simply when you put a structure in the way, and these structures are these three strands. So let's go back to our analogy. Why did we misunderstand that a rope wound up in a corner is a snake? It's because the snake was hidden from us. So there's a hiding capacity. The snake was projected, and knowledge will reveal it. Sattva is the knowledge that reveals it. We have to cultivate it. Its characteristic is unselfishness. Rajas will project something onto it, and tamas will hide it. So, as we said, three gunas are there, and the three gunas are the ingredients of Maya. This is what they consist of. They may be compared to three strands. They constitute the rope, and the rope binds us to this illusory world, without which it doesn't function. The drama doesn't continue without these three. So the rope by which Maya binds us to the illusory world is there, and it has no existence independent of these three gunas. Now you can apply these three gunas in every way you like. So listen to what I often say. Let us take the world of the physics, the physical world that science is trying to work on and find out how does it tick, how does it operate. Well, if you take a cosmological story that says in the beginning, you can't go back to a Big Bang. In the beginning, there was hydrogen. In other words, electrical energy. Now, the interesting thing is, why should there be electrical energy? It is because Rajas wants things to move away. It wants things to act. But then you see, you have this gravity that wants to draw everything inwards in the opposite direction and create something which is undivided, a unity. And then we have inertia, doesn't want to go anywhere. This is why your car doesn't want to move unless you make it move. You can force it. The Newton's law. But then you see, once it's going, it doesn't really want to stop. You have to put a brake on it. You have to force it to stop. So these three forces are there: gravity, electrical energy, and inertia. These are clearly these three gunas. Let's take the mind. The mind has these things. Never mind about the mind per se. Let's take about your perceptions. There are things that don't move. It's no good giving a rock a lecture and asking it please to move out of the quarry and construct itself into a road. It's not going to work. It's pretty inert, and it's really under the condition of tamas, inertia. But there are other things that move, lions, but even atoms. atoms themselves move. So although a rock doesn't move, internal to the rock is an atomic structure, and there is all bubbling energy. So we are told. And great spaces. Supposing you take the entire humanity of 8 billion people and odd, and you take all their space out of it. You have this kind of huge vacuum that sucks all the space, the interstitial spaces between the atomic structures and molecules and so on. The whole of these 8 billion people will fit in to something, a sphere the size of an apple. Things are not what they seem to be. For those who are a little scientifically minded, you have to understand that in 1905 there was special relativity, and there's an interesting formula that says that the total separation between two events represented by, let's say, an S, you can imagine a big S, equals. We can condense Einstein's equation in his special relativity and say there's an X. X means space. It's three-dimensional. But he also brought time into it. And he brought time as t minus. So you have plus x minus t, and Einstein says in a vacuum, it doesn't go anywhere. It goes to zero. Now imagine that. That means, you see, in a dream, we knew that a dream is a result of the perceiver. The perceiver and the perceived are the same thing in a dream. The dream comes from the dreamer. But in the waking state, we are told the perceiver and the perceived is also the same thing. And if space and time are components of Maya, part of the structure of Maya, we have just removed it, so that it looks as if something that is shining in the sky, some, let's say, 4 billion light years away, or four light years away, let's put it that way, is seen by us as 4 years away. Now, in that same special relative in the appendix, we have the most famous equation that you all know, and that is E equals mc squared. And that means that all mass, that is all matter, because all matter has mass, is resolved to its potential energy. It doesn't look like that. Another equation will say E, that is energy, equals h nu. That means mu is frequency and h is a constant, just as in E equals mc squared, c is a constant. So the essential equation is E equals m. And so E equals h, that is a Planck constant, forget about it. But you see the mu is frequency. So not only is all mass energy, but energy is frequency. Everything is vibrating. It doesn't look like that, does it? And yet, these equations are tried and tested. So it is all oscillating, vibrating energy. And now this comes to the wisdom of the yogis who understood it already. They said that what is the mind? The mind is just a mind stuff, chitta, the whole energy that is there within the universe, localized in one place, called my mind laughingly. We only have that one mind, and that's cosmic mind. Centralized in one place, as it were, consisting, is a kind of lake that has many, many waves. We can classify it as 5 waves going on, varieties of waves. Right knowledge and wrong knowledge, and then verbal delusion. We were discussing earlier about misunderstandings through gossiping, things like that. Well, it's because verbal delusion means somebody tells us something, we jump to a wrong conclusion. And that requires imagination. Somebody's looking somewhere awkwardly, oh, they're looking at me. No, not at all. Not looking at you at all. You misunderstood. Don't react. And even if you feel they are, why should you react? Can you not control all these waves? Now these waves then are classified, really, 5 of them, into 3 components. These are the gunas. And you can experience them. One day you feel a little lazy, a little unenthusiastic. Next moment you feel tremendously enthusiastic, full of energy. Next moment you're all very calm. So this is the operation of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And we're all captivated by these 3 gunas that Maya consists of. And so the 3 gunas will represent, in varying degrees, all the objects, gross and subtle, including the mind, including the discernment, the discriminative faculty, including the ego, and the food which nourishes our body, the thought which is the function of the mind, the duty which elevates us above, let's say, the animal level, charity, worship, sacrifice, in short, everything belonging to the universe is Maya. In other words, the variation of these 3 strands. And it was Ramakrishna that produced this analogy of 3 robbers coming to rob us of our freedom. And one robber wants to kill us, one robber wants to tie us up, one robber wants to free us, but it's still a robber. And so, what is the purpose of asking what is Maya unless we have some formula to overcome it? If Maya is equivalent to ignorance, if ignorance is what is causing us difficulty and pain, such as fear, then what should we do about it? We should use the principle of these 3 gunas. And we should cultivate sattva, whose characteristic is that of illumination. Sattva is the giver of happiness. It's our real friend. We should, through it, we have an effort to realize the truth. We were talking about truth a little earlier also. How can we distinguish truth from non-truth? Well, we establish truth in ourselves first. We promote our sattva first. So it manifests itself as humility, guilelessness, self-control, unselfishness, purity, contentment, truthfulness, fearlessness, faith, devotion, yearning for liberation, and all these other spiritual attributes. In other words, spiritual cultivation is sattva. And when sattva dominates or predominates, then a person feels detached with respect to the world, not really concerned about the world too much. And this lessens the physical activities, intensifies one's contemplation, and we can strive in various ways to attain peace and blessedness. We do this through the cultivation of this sattva. Both rajas and tapas are kept under control by promoting sattva. In the commentary that is there on the first few sutras, in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, using a technique, a psychic control technique, because all of self-control really amounts to that. How to control these waves. Because what is yoga as defined in the second sutra? Well, it is the absence of waves in the mind. Grossly misunderstood. You don't just block off their activity. No, you promote the sattva wave more and more. That is spiritual practice. This is in Buddhism the Eightfold Path. This is our morals and ethics. This is to do with and the purpose of all religious practices, so that we can clarify the mind and settle it and make it conditioned so that revelation of the truth happens from within by itself, self-revealed, by producing the right condition in the mind. So these 3 gunas belong to this Maya, this Prakriti or ignorance, and we have to understand these are all synonymous terms. And the antidote for ignorance is therefore knowledge. They include everything in nature, inorganic, organic, or psychic. They are the characteristics of relativity, the relative truth, our relative world. And as long as we are attached to any of them, then we are caught in the assumption that we are a phenomenal being, a separate individual, nothing more than a walking body, that a person of knowledge will understand is just a pillowcase. He is Ramakrishna's language. And even other beings that religion or mystics encounter, let's say, such as gods and angels and so on, they're all under the influence of these gunas. The so-called deities or superhuman beings show a preponderance of sattva, and men show a preponderance of rajas, and the subhuman beings show a preponderance of tamas. So we have to elevate our mind, and sattva binds us with attachments to happiness. Rajas binds us to attachments to activities, and tamas binds us to attachment to delusion. The three gunas compared, as I say, to three robbers going into a forest. So what is Maya? Maya is a statement of fact. Our daily practical life in this world of duality, ourselves plus others, isn't possible without this Maya. We all live and move and think in this Maya. And then we have just been celebrating Navaratri, where we can see that Maya has a rescuing aspect to it in the form of the feminine form of energy. Energy is conceived in the feminine way. So the Maya is not only our rescuing entity, as well as our inhibiting area, our goodness, as well as our darkness, our light, as well as our shade. This is Maya. It robs fellow people. It gives away the wealth in philanthropy, but not the pride associated with it, and we're still caught. Maya is responsible for the contradiction in our thinking and all our actions that come from it. Good is inevitably followed by evil. It's a fact. And yet we work to create only the good, believing that will ultimately eliminate evil in this relative world. All the wars today are because of this dichotomy. We believe in the progressive evolution of the universe. See the craziness of it? We'll create good by destroying. We'll create something good by invading, throwing missiles, creating human suffering. It's crazy because we haven't accepted the presence of light and dark co-equally. So the cause determines the effect. We still seek to accomplish good ends by bad means. We seek to establish peace through war. We want peace of mind through engaging the senses. This is called Maya. So a person like this will assert the so-called morality and goodness by attacking other people, insulting other people, destroying other people. This is Maya. Maya creates, money creates leisure, money builds up culture, no doubt, and in the end emasculates a nation and brings about also its ruin. We don't have to go far back in history to see. Let's take, for example, Rome, how glorious it was in its day, how prosperous. It was the most populated and richest and well-renowned city in the entire known Mediterranean world, which was the only world in those days for, the Western world, I suppose. And how easily it was put into rack and ruin, how it went into debauchery and was ruined over the years. The great Roman Empire found its collapse. Look at any conquering nation and see where they are today. So nature, through material resources, and in the end, we only become slaves of matter. So this is Maya. And as long as we identify ourselves with the relative world, this Maya or contradiction broods over our every action and our every thought. So there's no freedom in Maya. We can't look for it in Maya. There's no happiness in Maya. We can't look for it. Not in the world as we know it, other than cultivating it. Ramakrishna would put it like this. We have to use a thorn to take another thorn out of our foot. Supposing you have a thorn in your foot, you take another thorn. In other words, we can use Maya. Now, supposing we see Mahamaya is what is the term which is used, the power of Maya. We can understand that Maya, as we have said, is indescribable, it's indefinable, but its existence can be inferred from its effects. And the effects are like this. Projection or manifestation, we call it Shasti. Other people or cultures may call it creation. Creation, Shasti, projection is a part of this Maya, as is preservation, which is called Sthiti, and dissolution, which is called Laya. This happens in terms of the whole totality of the universe. It will happen. It's happening with us. We are projecting a dream, for example. We are preserving our life. And we are dissolving everything that all our experiences goes into a kind of disappearance called a deep sleep. Maya carries on the work through two powers. These two powers are known as Avarana Shakti, that is concealment, and then the power of projection, Vikshepa Shakti. And then what happens to Avarana Shakti? It obscures the knowledge of us as observers. It conceals, as it were, the true nature of the Supreme that we call Brahman. And though in itself insignificant, unsubstantial, yet through an inscrutable power, it hides existence, bliss, absolute. Just like a cloud, as I mentioned, will obscure the sun. And as the sun, in spite of the concealment, the cloud going in front, just like it, as it retains its brilliance and keeps it intact, so also the divine self, which also is Brahman within us, in spite of its concealment by Maya, retains in full its nature of pure consciousness. And so when the true nature of Brahman which is hidden by the power of Maya, when this condition of individualities and relative existences moves on, just as when the real nature of a rope is concealed by darkness and you get the possibility of a snake arising, just in the same way, we can see the concealing power, the projecting power of Maya function almost simultaneously. So our ignorance, which conceals the real nature of the rope, by the very power inherent in it, creates the illusion of a snake or stick. When we personalize this Maya as a divine mother, for there's only one existence, Brahman. It's not that there's Brahman and Maya. It's the same thing under certain conditional revealing, hiding, and projecting characteristics. And it is the revealing aspect that is used, that assists us, that opens up divine grace for us when we see this divinity there as the operating energy in the entire universe. So I mentioned E equals mc squared and all that. What is this E? It is the divine, we can call it the divine mother of the universe, the feminine aspect, if you want to personalize it like that. It is Brahman that is that is veiled through this Maya. So there are these two modes of this Maya, and when we see, as we have done over the last several days, when we see this Maya personalized as a divine being, as a god or a goddess coming to destroy those parts of Maya that are also intrinsic to its nature, we see that it is all a drama, it is all a mysterious play. But who is in charge? It is this sattvic aspect, this rescuing aspect, this revealing aspect, this knowledgeable aspect, this protecting aspect, this loving aspect, this motherly aspect that provides us with the term Mother Nature. So the cosmic version of this, Samashti it's called, and the individual Vyashti, these are just a small and a big version of the same thing. And from the collective standpoint, Maya is only one thing. But from the individual standpoint, it looks like many things. And the Vedantic philosophers can give all these various illustrations to explain the two modes of Maya. One can look at a number of trees from the collective standpoint. One can describe them as a wood, a forest, but from the individual standpoint, they can just look like so many numbers of trees. So we can look at it from the collective side. Let's take a body of water. Collectively, we can see it as the sea or lake even. But from the individual standpoint, we could describe it as a certain limited quantities of water. Maybe even in a more limited way to see it as only waves. And so the collective or cosmic or aggregate of Maya and individual Maya is there. And Maya appears to us both in the cosmic and individual aspects, hidden and appearing, revealing itself as so-called fractionating things called upadis. That is the limiting adjuncts, supposedly hiding the full glory of what is behind. Here's some example of that. Yes, we have a light bulb. A light bulb reveals not only everything around us, sheds light on what we can see, but it is not really the totality of the mechanism. Behind it is an electrical current. Tapped into it, given a suitable adapter, it comes out as light. Another suitable adapter, it comes out as heat. Another suitable adapter, it comes out as refrigeration. So when we tap into a cosmic energy and then allow it to manifest in different ways, we can see the sun is an upadi. We can put it in another way. We can say mask. So many masks are there, the sun mask, the moon mask, as well as the human, the face mask. We're about to enter Halloween at the end of this month, and everybody puts a mask on. Well, they come in costume and so on and so forth. They're not like that the year round. A small child comes to the door with a mask on. Of course, the mother may say, no, there was a devil inside the child the whole year anyway. When it comes to the door, they're very cute and so on. It's not the mask that's the reality. So what is this world of Maya? It's the illusion which allows us to think that all of this, all of the fractions, all of the individualities that we perceive and that we react to are individual things unrelated to anything else, as opposed to them simply being revealing factors or limiting adjuncts on the one side and suitable adapters showing the glory of the divine on the other. And the ignorant part of it is that we take the fractionated world as the reality. So how do we reverse this? We have to revise and revalue all of these masks and fractions that we come across and understand that the world is only fractionated God. It's only a split up God, fragmented God. But then how can this Brahman be fragmented? No, it only looks like that. And as soon as we develop the sattvic quality in our mind and make it pure enough and clarified enough to see it, we start seeing through the fractions. We start looking at them as aspects of divine glory. We revalue them as something precious, something that fills us with wonder and adoration and thankfulness. And then going beyond that, transcending that completely, the whole thing is gone anyway. And once it's gone, we will never look the same. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Swamiji, thank you.